Hola, comrades. Today's topic of interest, Pokémon Mystery Dungeon, Red and Blue Rescue Team. This is the start of a new series for this channel. When I observe a piece of art for the second time, one thing I love to do is analyze how a scene works, meaning how it was built up to, the different physical and emotional components that make it up, and what it means in the context of the rest of the piece. I struggled to come up with a name for this, but while I was in London in June, it finally popped into my head. Anatomy of a Scene. In this series, I will check out the inner workings of a lot of the best and most prominent scenes I have experienced. These will be scenes that stand out as exemplary, that stick into your head for eternity, but these will be scenes that also exemplify the general strengths of a piece of work as a whole. With that lengthy preamble out of the way, let's dive in. The Pokémon Mystery Dungeon games are brilliant examples of how powerful and evocative Pokémon as a series can be when it takes storytelling seriously. Before Pokémon Black and White took the storytelling in the mainline games to another level, that's a topic for another day by the way, the Mystery Dungeon games were telling these beautiful, poignant stories, tragic yet heartwarming. This series showcases the greatest disparity I can think of between a game's critical reception and its actual quality. These games receiving a lukewarm response from critics says more about the sorry state of gaming criticism than anything else. They aren't just good for side games, but worthwhile works of art in their own right. While their battle system is entertaining, and the dungeons you explore are relatively varied and interesting, the story is the real standout. For the first games, Pokémon Red and Blue Rescue Team, this is not immediately clear. I have to admit, the hook is killer. The central premise and tagline is, what if you woke up one morning and had turned into a Pokémon? The appeal is evident. I'm honestly amazed they didn't do a game along these lines sooner. When you think of the Pokémon series, you don't immediately think of the trainers or the gym battles or the world. No, you immediately think of the Pokémon themselves. So taking you from being in control of Pokémon to being a Pokémon seems like a natural progression and an appealing concept, especially if you're a kid like I was back in 2006. If I remember right, I got these games for Christmas that year. I got the player's guide too, and when I read through it, there was a lot of talk about the emotional nature of the game and how it would leave me weepy. Of course, player's guides are non-spoiler for the most part, at least if they're good player's guides. So they didn't exactly say what would hit me so hard, and I was left off kilter. Really? I asked as I played through the first part of this game. This is emotional? I ventured through the tiny woods and set up my own rescue team, and though I was having a good time and I was loving exploring through the world of Pokémon in a new way, I can't exactly say the story was pulling at my heartstrings. My partner, Squirtle, and I was a Bulbasaur, went through Thunderwave Cave and then Mount Steel. I got to know the world of the game and I was getting invested in it. I took as many missions as I could on the bulletin board so I could get leveled up. This was important because despite my love of games, I was a little kid who was not good at them, and so if I were not uberly high leveled, I tended to get crushed and lose my progress, which I utterly loathed. But whatever. Almost every person who got into gaming when they were a kid has a story like this. What's important was I was getting roped into this world. The stakes were still low, but I had played RPGs before. I knew how this was supposed to work. I knew it would build. I went into the depths of the Silent Chasm, but before I could save Shiftry, he was captured by Zapdos. As a fairly creative kid, I had by this point begun to make up my own stories in this world. Whenever my mother took me out for a walk through the field of sunflowers not far from our house, I pretended we were two Pokemon working our way through a dungeon. My mom got miffed because the cry of one more battle from the main series games became one more dungeon, which lasted significantly longer. After my partner, Squirtle, and I defeated Zapdos, I was feeling on top of the world, and I enjoyed making my way through the Great Canyon, which to this day has some of the best music in any Pokemon game. I think my desire to go to the Grand Canyon, which I finally fulfilled last spring, formed playing through that dungeon. When we got to the top of the Hill of the Ancients, I was treated to one of the most sobering scenes I had ever seen. Xatu was waiting for us. I had heard about Xatu's powers from the main series games and from the anime, but here it had gravitas and depth. Little me couldn't help but be thrown into awe. This was a creature of genuine power and purpose. Xatu told me that one day, A human tugged on the tail of a Ninetales and was therefore cursed. The human's Gardevoir tried to protect it from the curse, but the human abandoned the Gardevoir, and astonished at this selfishness, Ninetales made it so that the human would turn into a Pokemon, and the balance of the world would be severely disrupted. Gengar of Team Meanies, yes, Team Meanies, even as a 7-year-old I thought that was a childish name, overhears the conversation. And then, everything goes wrong. Gengar convinces the villagers that you are the cursed Pokemon, and they run you out of town. Is there any proof? No, but you're forced out of this town, out of this life you've made for yourself. You can't call in the Pokemon you've recruited throughout your missions through the dungeons. It's just you and your partner, forced to become fugitives. As a 7-year-old, I had never seen anything like this before. I was freaking out. What's going on? I thought. It's not supposed to be like this. I knew the game was going to build, but I thought it was going to be a general build like I'd experienced in other Pokemon games, slow and steady. Instead, there was this curve out of left field. I got up one morning and it was like every other morning of our rescue team career, but something was off. When we were chased out of town, I was shaken to the core. I started to cry, and I will admit that it is the first time that a game had ever made me cry. It was the first time a game had ever struck me with that level of emotional resonance. What hit me real hard was, I think, the utter unfairness of what was happening. We were the good guys, weren't we? Even if I were the cursed human, and I didn't think I was, so what? We had done so much for these Pokemon. We had made their lives better, not just in little ways. In both the story and the side quests, we had risked our lives to save Pokemon, and yet we were being run out of town based on nothing more than a rumor from the leader of Team Meanies. However, as an older and more experienced gamer and analyst, I understand where the villagers were coming from. Their actions were wrong, yes, but think about it. They live in this idyllic little town, and all they want is to live out their lives, and yet they're being disrupted by these natural disasters. Rescue teams were already an established force, so you know they've endured a lot of loss and craziness, but this is a step beyond that. Things are getting bad, and they're only getting worse. They have to blame someone. What else would they do? They need this to end. And here Gengar comes, the leader of a rescue team himself, bearing this information. It's horrible that they side with him, but it's nevertheless understandable and real, and yet you don't expect it. Pokemon games are already undeniably idealistic to the extreme, and not only is this game more kid-friendly on a surface level, what with the bright colors and the central idea of you being turned into a Pokemon, you're going around saving Pokemon like some sort of superhero. You don't expect the game to take such a dark turn. This comes out of nowhere. All those relationships you've been building and cultivating throughout the story, the game uses them against you like some sort of martial art. It's brilliant game writing, actually, taking everything you've accomplished and using it against you. It is, in many ways, a loss of innocence, both for the characters and for me, the little kid playing this game for the first time, based not just on what they see on television, but also on what they're told by their parents and teachers. Little kids believe that justice is generally served. They're told that if you do good things, people will do good onto you, unless they're just inherently evil. But seeing these nice, smiling Pokemon that I had done so much for turn against me based on Gengar's rumor broke something in me. It really did. Here I am, this Pokemon who, despite having no memories, has tried to do the best for myself and become an important, helpful member of the Pokemon Society, and they turned against me. I cried because it hurt. I had a lot to think about. And yes, I know the team eventually returns, but that's not the point. The betrayal has already taken place, and both you and your partner have undergone much struggle. And even if it were the point, you're gone a long time. For dungeon after dungeon, I was waiting for the opportunity to go home, but it never seemed to come. We were far away from home, with no one to look out for us, horribly uncertain about what the future may hold. Up to this point, you've made a lot of high-profile rescues and raised the profile of your team, but you're by no means the most capable or qualified rescue team there is, nor the most respected. You're just two unevolved Pokemon trying to do the best you can. You're not prepared to be exiled, but you don't lose hope. Out of bravery, naivete, and above all, a belief in one another, the two of you don't let your spirits become crushed, no matter how impossible the mounting circumstances become. As you leave, you are treated to one of the best pieces of music in gaming history, Run Away, Fugitives, from which I titled this moment as a whole. On my blog, jfmillenniumreviews.com, in its early days, I did a list of the best video game orchestral pieces in history, and I put this at number 20, and I stand by that, but as it plays during this moment, it's even more powerful than that. When the piece played, that's when I began to cry. I've been told what good music was, all the Beethoven and Bach and Mozart, but to me, this was as good as any of that. I stand by that opinion to this day, by the way. The instrumentation is painfully limited, but even so, it's stocked with emotion. The overall mood of it is not despair or melancholy or anger or anything else that could be expected considering the situation, but rather resilience and courage. This is the music of, yes, we're in a bad position, and it's going to be next to impossible to get back, and I have no idea what's going on right now, but I believe in you, and you believe in me, and we're going to pull through this together, no matter the odds, no matter what it takes. We're hurting now, but one day we're going to beat this. Just stick close to me, and I'll stick close to you, and we'll make it. That, more than the sorrow and horror I felt when they were exiled and made fugitives, is what made me cry. It made the moment much more desperate, but there was also a glimmer of hope. I had never so badly wanted my protagonist to succeed in a game. There was trust and bravery and perseverance, a desire to find the truth. My partner had not given up on me. The town may have abandoned me, but not them. They were willing to stick with me to the end. What made this more amazing is that there wasn't evidence that we weren't the cursed Pokemon. Our partner had no basis for believing in us except thinking we were a good person. And yet they defended us against every attack, every insult thrown our way. It was heartwarming. Anyone who's played through this game knows that Gengar, not the player, is the real cursed human who is causing the natural disasters. But you, the player, don't know that the first time out. You don't know if you're guilty or not. Your memories are gone. All you have is the hope that you're innocent, the same as your partner. On one level, it doesn't matter if you're guilty or not. The people are after you, and you have to run from them. But on another level, it absolutely does. As if you're innocent, it means you can clear your name and return to town, and track down the real cursed Pokemon. This ambiguity, this not knowing, it weighs on you. It would be so easy to give into despair and hopelessness. But instead, you and your partner press on. You're in over your heads, but you're undaunted. That resolve, that refusing to give in to overwhelming pressure from all angles, is something I find very inspiring, and it's a thread that runs through many of my favorite games of all time. Not everyone in town has given up on you, but they're aware of the journey you must take, painfully aware. As a young rescue team still, you and your partner must go through fissures and fields of fire, all the lands affected by the calamities. There is thought that the world might be destroyed, which indeed nearly happens close to the end of the game, and only Rayquaza can stop it, leading to your journey to the top of the Sky Pillar. As you traverse the ravaged land, you must battle Moltres and Articuno, these legendary birds, all for the hope of keeping ahead of the Pokemon chasing you and returning home one day, after all this is over. But for now, that day seems impossibly far away. By the end of my journey through Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, I was so invested in this game that I asked for Explorers of Time and Darkness 2 years later, for Christmas 2008. But wait, you may say, pulling up the Explorers of Time and Darkness Wikipedia page, that game didn't come out in America until 2009. To which I say, you're absolutely right. I only got games on Christmas pretty much, so I had two choices. Either wait another year to play through the sequel to a game that I absolutely adored, or get it in Japanese. I did the latter. As a 9-year-old, I played through the entirety of this fairly intense RPG in Japanese. I couldn't understand what anyone was saying, but it was nonetheless a very emotional adventure. I could tell what was happening, and it hit me hard. Anyway, if you liked what you saw today and want more sharp content, I suggest you pledge to my Patreon. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that wondrous stuff. Adios, comrades!